helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi everybody, welcome to the CURES Show, where we love to explore the cutting edge of wellness. And I'm here with Hillary Russo because she is not only a former journalist, but she is now a certified health coach. And you're certified in something called a havening technique, which I want to introduce you all to this because when we get stressed out, this is CPR for our amygdala. This is basically a quick way to calm down when we're really feeling the stress. So thank you for being with us.
So good to be back here. Thanks so much, Kara.
Which I love that, you know, you've been a health journalist for many years, as have I, a couple decades now. And this is Stress Awareness Month. Just the fact that we're making people more aware of stress, that it's not something that really goes away, but we do need to learn effective ways of dealing with it.
That's absolutely right. There's good stress and bad stress, and we don't clump it all together because we deal with everyday stresses. If we don't, we need that contrast in our lives, right? We need to know when our body is reacting in a certain way, and having tools that can help is a great way to be kind to your mind, as I always say.
So we're hearing a lot about trauma on social media. It's becoming kind of like maybe a year ago we started becoming more mainstream with the word cortisol, that's our stress response hormone, and everyone's talking about ways to reduce cortisol. Trauma, I think we used to think of it as horrible things, big accident, a rape, a crime. But what do you want us to understand about how trauma really affects everyday people who have everyday experiences?
Yeah, you nailed it. We see the social media out there always talking about trauma. It's become like a trend word, right? A buzzword. And basically there's big T's and little t's, just like there's big stress and little stress, right? There's the traumas that happen in our everyday lives. We could be injured. We could stub our toe and it's a trauma that we have. We can get an offender bender and it might be an event trauma that impacts us. And then there can be the traumas that are complex traumas that happen over the course of our lives. But how do we learn how to befriend it? How do we learn how to manage it? Because trauma lives in our body. It's just a question of how do we want to go forward with that and turn that story into a new narrative, basically.
So basically what you're teaching people how to do is heal their nervous system, and that can have a really profound effect on how we live.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why shouldn't we be empowered and in control of our own health and our bodies? We need to be our own healthcare advocate first, right?
Right, and especially as moms. Okay, let's just talk about that. As moms, we can get triggered really easily by our kids, and then you feel bad, and you're like, I yelled, I acted the way I didn't want to, but when we're triggered, when you're hijacked by the amygdala, that means we do things we don't always intend to do, right?
Right, and then we feel bad and we feel guilty, and we go through all these emotions, and then how do we process it? And it's learning how to process these things. And I deal with that a lot with moms, you know, feeling like you have that nurturing sense anyway, but how do you turn it around after you've had a reaction that you don't feel was the best choice, right? Especially when you feel like my children are following my lead. This is how I reacted.
Sure,
But
and you
life
see
happens.
that. I mean, they can repeat it.
Yeah.
If mommy makes a mistake, mommy yells, whatever, and then you see that they just yelled the same exact verbiage that you did. You're like, okay. So we want to be, I know a lot of us moms, we want to break the cycles that we came from, but we are just brains. We're circuits, right? And so if you don't rewire the circuits, you keep getting the same habits.
And that is the beauty of havening. First of all, it's a very nurturing approach because it uses touch. It's a neuroscience-based approach that uses touch and positive thought, pleasant distraction to rapidly rewire the brain. And when you do that, it releases all these beautiful, what I call brain candy, the happy chemicals, the oxytocin, the love hormone, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and it puts your brain in what they call a delta wave state, which is a sleep state. It doesn't mean you're going to sleep, but when your brain is in parasympathetic in that part of the nervous system, then you are able to make better choices. You're not reacting, you're possibly responding. And when you're in sleep state, that delta wave delicious state, you're in a state of calm. So it's turning that chaos into calm rapidly and rewiring the brain. It's that CPR for the amygdala.
Yeah, well, who doesn't want that? And you started it because you came from a profession like ours, right? As a journalist, where we have little micro stresses all day long. I mean, in order to do a good job, we're sort of always on alert.
Always on alert, and I'm still in the health journalism field. Like, that is what's so beautiful about this. Like, when people say you've kind of moved out of journalism, I'm like, no, it's the umbrella of what I do. I still do health journalism stories. I see things every day, as you do. And a lot of times when we're just turning on a TV, whether you're in this field or not, we are seeing the secondary traumatic stress, which is the secondary stress of somebody else experiencing it firsthand. So you could be experiencing something devastating by looking at social media, turning on the news, just seeing something happen in front of you that wasn't positive, and it can impact you in a certain way. And if you don't know how to deal with these things and handle these things and manage these things, you internalize it, and you might assume that it's just burnout. It's overwhelm. I'm just stressed. There's something happening at home. You can bring it home if you don't know how to deal with it, if you know what it is. So knowing if it's secondary traumatic stress or burnout are two completely different things, and that's where havening can really be helpful.
Okay, so basically, not that I would never as a journalist tell you all to turn off the news, although sometimes we talk about regulating our diets of what we're intaking, because we are not only what we eat, but we are what we watch, what we consume, what we read. You know, I sometimes tell my kids, I don't care, you know, I know you're teenagers, you like certain music, I don't want this blaring loud music that has a lot of, you know, kind of anger in it. It makes me feel unsettled, right? Or so the same thing when we're just around stuff, we might not consider that trauma, but it can dysregulate us.
Absolutely, and you're right. It's not just turning on the news. It's every day. It's being a human.
Yeah.
It's a human and dealing with everyday events and witnessing
everyday
things.
Overwhelm.
Everywhere, every time you step out your door. In fact, you don't even need to step out your door. It could be happening inside your door. So it's having these tools that can really help you self-regulate to self-soothe for self-care, and that's really the most important thing.
Self-regulate for self-care to self-soothe. And this is something that if you're a mom, you've constantly been trying to teach your babies to self-soothe. And we talk about toddlers and teens learning to self-regulate. So this is really, I love this because I love practical things. I'm always talking about how do we turn our daily grind into a sacred grind, because we're going to all have our we're going to have our days. We're just, but how come it's what we do and how we handle the stuff that can really kind of transform us, right? So we're going to do this right now. We're going to learn a little havening, because it's not that difficult to learn.
It's not. Obviously, for the deeper rooted trauma, for upsets that you need additional support, it's good to come to a trauma-informed practitioner like myself. But for the everyday, the beauty of this work is that it's putting the power of active emotional well-being in your own hands. You know, I'm teaching this in schools too, and being able to share this as a social and emotional learning tool in SEL is powerful when a kid is feeling overwhelmed by test taking or bullying, or knowing how to respond instead of react and use your emotions be understanding of what's going on within you.
Okay, I love it. My daughter's taking the SAT as we speak.
Yeah, I wish I had it when I was taking the SAT 3 times.
So you might have heard of tapping, you might have heard of other things. This is simple, like anybody can learn how to do this.
It's 3 different approaches. It's like you're washing your hands. Or giving yourself a hug, what I call hugging it out, because for you to find the healing, you have to have that humor, understanding,
but we're
gratitude.
Hugging and touching as we come down.
Right, just
well,
like
getting
you're going
the
from
chills.
The shoulders.
Is that normal?
Well, maybe it's activating all those happy hormones that brain candy.
I'm feeling chills.
Or even on your face. So there's 3 different approaches. You can do it on your face. We have so many nerves in our face. It's like giving yourself a facial, giving yourself a hug, because we need more hugs, or just a gentle touch on the hands like this, which is beautiful because you can do it anywhere. Like, I don't like
nobody's going to know that if you're feeling stressed, and you just even, I always, when I speak to women, I say, well, you know, go to the bathroom. That's your, use your mantras in your bathroom. Get a break in the bathroom. But it's just after you're done washing your hands and you're just feeling the stress of the day.
Or just walking.
Just like, doing a few moments like this.
Yeah, I do walking havening and walking meditation. I'll just, when I'm walking to something that's I'm excited about, because it's not always a bad thing. It could be the excitement of stress. It's not always a bad thing. I just wanted to stress about the stress, that it could just be energy. I always tell my college students, because I'm a college professor as well, and I teach on-camera presentation, the nerves that they get from getting up there in front of the camera on stage, or just with, you know, CEOs doing their first presentation, it's nerves, it's really energy. So when you do this, and then you think of something positive, think of something that you like, that you enjoy doing. What brings you joy, Kara?
Walking on the beach.
Well, it's always the beach. I get that a lot.
Walking on the beach.
So if you were to close your eyes, and we don't have to close your eyes here, you can also
close my eyes.
You can focus point. You can have a focal point. If you're not a good visualizer, you can also focus on something in front of you that brings you joy, or hum a song or sing, because the activating the vagus nerve actually will bring you in that parasympathetic state.
All right,
too.
so we're gonna
think of something like the beach.
Think of something soothing, and you might want to hum.
You could hum if you don't have good visual. There's people that aren't good visualizers, right? Like can't do creative visualization. So if you were to just close your eyes for a minute and just think of the beach, right? Or the people that are tuning in, think of something that brings you joy.
Do this at home, everybody.
Right, think of something that brings you joy. I'm just gonna count. And while I'm counting, within that experience you're having, because it could be a person, a place, experience, a song, think of something that brings you joy, and with each number that I go to, think of something else within that experience. So maybe like the beach is, number 1 is the sand under your feet. Number 2 is the sunshine. But if you were to think of something stressful right now, Kara, and same with those that are tuning in, if you think of something stressful, where would you be on the scale of 0 to 10 on that stress level? It doesn't have to be monumental, but something that's causing you stress right now before we get into it.
Okay. Gosh, I wasn't stressed just now. But if I were to say, I'm probably like never much below a 4 or 5.
That's okay. That's a good stress level.
Yeah.
But if you were to find something bringing you a little bit of upset, and by the way, with havening, you don't have to share it.
Yeah.
This is your own thing.
My own thing. Okay. All right. So let's. Okay, I got something that's at a 7.
Okay. A 7. Okay. So that's got a little stress. Now I want you to think of a word that you would associate with it. What is bringing you to that 7? Is it overwhelm, stress, anxiousness? What is the word?
Yeah, overwhelm.
Okay, overwhelm. So Kara's at a 7 with some overwhelm. We're going to help her out. Same with you. Find something in that number range from 0, which I call namaste all day, to 10 is very activated, and then give it a word. And then we're just going to take that walk. So you're at a 7 and you're feeling the overwhelm. Go back to that beach or anywhere that place is for folks that are tuning in, and then just take that walk. Take that first powerful step. Remember, it's on your hands, from your shoulders down to your elbows or your face.
Okay, so we can either do this, or
There's
we
no
can do
choreography.
this, or we can do like a hug.
Right.
And you could do it sitting or walking.
Right, anywhere you want to do it. Lying down, some people do it because they have problems sleeping. It'll put you in that restful state. Then move to step 2, keep your eyes closed, right? Find that second thing, move into step 3 and 4, feeling lighter and calmer, more connected, deeper. Step 4 to 5, take a deep breath on 5, maybe breathe in on a 4 count, hold it on 2, breathe out on 8. Yeah, take extra long to breathe out. Yeah, parasympathetic awesomeness.
Right.
Pranayama breathing.
We always want to breathe in
Always think about
on a
breathing.
shorter count and then breathe out on a longer, because that also is reducing our stress response.
Right, that's pranayama breathing. And then if you continue to 6 and 7, feeling lighter and calmer, more connected, just think about that place. Keep that place in mind where you are. 8 to 9, 10. Take another deep breath. 11. Just really bring that place to mind that brings you calmness and peace and joy, right? And we're not gonna go on for like 20 minutes.
Right, because you would do a private session with Hillary for that.
Right.
But this is something we can model even for our kids. That did not take very long, less than 30 seconds.
Where are you now? What are you kind of feeling now?
Well, I mean,
I know.
I wasn't stressed unless I went to go think about the actual thing that I have to go solve. But so I'm a good compartmentalizer. I can be either, or I can turn it off. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm in a relaxed state.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm doing a TV show, so different than if I was in a quiet spot.
Right.
But I'm in a relaxed state, and I love the idea that I definitely can feel my body settling. Yeah. And this is one of those things that you don't have to be good at it, right? This is natural.
Oh my
your
goodness.
body just knows to settle when we breathe and do this.
And you normally do this anyway. Think about how many times you just do this when you're walking around like, okay, what's next? Like you're instantly doing part of the havening anyway. It's just pairing it with that positive thought, pleasant distraction, affirmations, I'm calm, I'm good, I've got this, whatever it might be. It's the pairing together that actually is the havening technique.
Yeah, yeah.
And it works rapidly. It's rewiring your brain. And like I said, it's CPR for the amygdala, because your amygdala is basically that fight, flight, fear, or fawn, right?
Right.
And you're basically letting Amy, the amygdala, know you're okay. Everything's okay. You're safe.
I like it. We can name Amy, the amygdala.
Amy, because Amy, the amygdala, havening is a transitive verb for the word haven, a safe place.
Oh.
So you're reminding Amy you're safe. The worst is over.
So that's always, you know, if you've watched CURES long enough, you know that we also have Dr. Laura Saunders on all the time, who recommends that we all have our go-to affirmations. And
Very
for her,
smart.
you know, she always says, "I am okay," or she has good. For one of mine, I always say, "I am safe." That's always one of my affirmations. So settle that little inner child down, like everything's okay. You know,
That's
I'm safe, I'm
exactly
okay.
right.
So this is just to go with the affirmation. If you're new to this, maybe you just want to start with an affirmation of "I am safe" and just putting your hand on your heart. But when we add this, it's doing something else to the neuroscience.
That is correct. And you're actually letting Amy know you're safe. The worst is over. You've got this. It could be an affirmation, because the most powerful words in the dictionary is "I am." It's what follows that matters.
Right. And even in religious traditions, "I am" was, you know, that's a power thing of in the way back to the Old Testament of "I am" is anything after that. You know, when God tells Moses, "I am that I am." So there's a lot of I am meditations you can do. You'll see those out on YouTube. But what about this is helping? Like, why are we touching our arms like this?
Well, there are a lot of nerves, and we've found from doing the havening and developing this modality that this is where it's activating most, these AMPA receptors in the brain. And that is actually the 3 touches that tend to be the most powerful in order to do the rewiring.
So this is just human. We tend to settle when you have a hug, which we talk about, you know, hugging people can create oxytocin.
Absolutely.
Or when you're a kid, you know, when I would put my kids to bed, I would stroke their back. So all of that feeling, it's just we're doing it to ourselves.
So you can do it to yourselves, or even if you still have, like, if you have children that are having a problem going to bed or settling, you can do it to them. That's the beauty, is that this work can be self-applied for your own self-care, but what more beautiful gift is it if you can share it with someone you love? I can physically do this havening touch on my clients, right?
Yep.
I can facilitate it, or I can teach them how to do it themselves and facilitate it with them sitting in the room. They might not want to be touched. I also have virtual clients, right?
Yeah.
But there are times when I've even, you know, when I've been with people that have felt unsettled, and I'll just simply say, "Can I have your hand for a second? Can I just show you something?" And I'll do it to them, and they're like, "I don't know what you just did to me, but I feel like so calm right now." That's the beauty of havening. And there's no better gift than being able to put the power of active emotional well-being in your own hands.
So you're one of about 1,000. I had never heard of havening before. I even was like, "Is it to do with your name, Hillary?" But no, this is something that people are getting trained in. It's maybe, would you call it newer? There's about 1,000 of you who are certified right now. Is that correct?
So it's been around for about 20 years, the development of, but still, it's not mainstream like some of the other modalities out there. It's becoming that, especially the pandemic allowed us to really grow even more, just because there was a way to this global village, we can reach people digitally, right?
Yes.
Like, I still have so many clients virtually all over the world because they can't be in my office with me, right? But the beauty of this work is that it is growing. There are more across the pond that are havening practitioners.
Oh.
Here, there's probably in the States now, I would say 400.
Oh.
There's really, it's a small
new
amount.
thing. And where did you get certified?
So I was certified with the Havening Techniques Research and Development Center, which is out of New York. I studied with the co-developing doctors, Dr. Steve and Ron Rudin. One is an internist, one is a dentist. They're twins. And I've been really fortunate that I started this journey into havening when we were doing everything in person. You know, so I was in the room with them. My first experience with havening was actually having Dr. Ron Rudin haven me on my own traumas. Because if I don't understand it myself, how can I serve others?
Yep.
Right? So I was very fortunate to get up on stage, do a demo with him, and I felt lighter and calmer. And honestly, that specific trauma, which happened to be grief on the passing of my father, that I always really didn't know how to deal with it, it changed the narrative on the story I was telling myself. And then I actually used it more with my own chronic pain from having major surgery. I had jaw surgery when I was 15. Trauma lives in the body. Again, it goes back to the complex traumas, you know, the CPTSD or the PTSD. And by the way, for havening the work, there actually has to be what we call EMLI. There has to be an event that takes place. There has to be a meaning that you put to it. There has to be a landscape, meaning your brain doesn't know if it's happening over here or right now. Like a car accident we were talking about, right? If you get into a fender bender.
So you would think about, and Emily, you would think about the event.
And that feeling of inescapability, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a little bit more than what we can teach you right here, but what if somebody wanted to learn more about havening or even do sessions? How do they do that, and how many sessions does it take?
I'll tell you, it can be as little as one session that somebody sees the difference, because you will walk out feeling lighter and calmer and more connected, and just knowing that you're nurturing yourself. I mean, the most important person to love is yourself, the self-love. So in addition to it being self-regulating and self-soothing and self-care, it's self-love. And if you don't begin within, where do you start? You know? So,
and that's something that we're learning a lot. And as women, we probably need to get, not probably, we do need to get better at this.
We do.
Because when we learn self-love and self-care, this is really a lot more than like, oh, I'm going to take a bubble bath, or I'm going to go get a massage.
Although that's great.
It's great. But like, people, really, when we talk about self-care, it's more of a daily basis, or how we're responding to our internal thoughts.
Yes, and also we are nurturing creatures as women anyway, and this is a very nurturing approach. This is a way that you can nurture yourself so that you have the tools to not only nurture you, but nurture others, because it is think about this is nurturing, right?
Yeah.
This is loving and caring.
So let's say you want to help your kids with this. You know, I think as moms, it always goes to this: let me heal myself so I can then heal my family. You know, or oh look, you know. And I probably push this. All the things that I do on the show, I'll come home and tell my kids, like, let's do this. And sometimes they tune you out.
Right.
But if you realize that your kids are having some anxiety, I've got teens, SATs, getting into college, little ones, you know, tantrum because of anything. Is it better that we do it on them, or how do you teach kids? I know you go to schools. How do we teach kids to do this?
Interestingly enough, I'm going to be at a school tomorrow doing a couple classes showing them how to mindfully self-regulate. And I think giving them the tool is important, because some kids might not be like, I'm enough, Mom. I'm 15. You don't need to be nurturing me like that, right?
Right. That's exactly what they do, but they might say that to you.
But sometimes they need that. Like even as adults, sometimes it's nice to have Mom just touch your hair, or just like put a hand on your back. We always need nurturing, but I think you have to meet the person where they're at. Having the option of being able to self-soothe or facilitate it on them is the beauty of this work, right? Because there are a lot of modalities out there where you have to be in the hands of the person, right? This is self-empowering by giving them a tool to self-regulate. So if it's a young one that's having a hard time sleeping, like you were saying with your own children, just being able to sit there and like, let's talk about a story. What's a fantasy story that you love that's gonna, or that last trip to Disney, and then they just start thinking, before you know it, they're like,
yeah, no, they're out for sure.
They're out. But it's the same thing with older children too. Like I said, as a college professor teaching communications, on-camera presentation, even with the C-suite CEO executives that I help, because they get the jitters and the fears, it's just teaching you to do it right before you walk on stage, right before that camera light goes on, just to say, I've got this, I'm okay. And if it's not an affirmation, it can also be thinking about the outcome. Think about what the outcome is that you want. And that's empowering, like, oh yeah, I've aced that test, you know? Or, oh, I got a good night's sleep. I do that a lot, because insomnia and sleep issues is huge.
Huge, yes.
Huge, and we need sleep. We need sleep to be able to function.
Well, that's the other thing. We're going to get way more stressed out if we're not sleeping well.
Right.
So just in our final 5 minutes together, if we're simply, we want to start learning ourselves. It could be, obviously people can do sessions with you. You're in Connecticut, but you also do this virtually. So if this appeals to you more than going to talk therapy, because you don't have to tell someone your trauma.
Nope.
You can just
That's
say,
the beauty of havening.
Think about this, and I'm going to help you get through it. So maybe you don't want to open up to everything that happened in your childhood or this and that. You would book a session with you. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I have offices in Connecticut, Jersey, and New York, and virtually. I mean, I'm pretty much available anywhere, which is great. But I love my Connecticut family, and it's just wonderful to be able to support people on their emotional well-being right here in the area.
Okay, so shout out your website so people can find you, and that way they could make an appointment if they want.
Thank you. Absolutely. And of course, if you're still curious to see if havening works for you, I offer a complimentary session, a short session, just so you can see, is this aligning with who you are? Right? So my website is Hillary with one L, HillaryRusso.com, and /havening, which is just like the word HAVENING, if I can spell.
Haven, I-N-G.
Havening, right?
Havening.
You can go to hillaryrusso.com and you'll see the drop down with Havening, but you can find that. And I also have like a simple 5-day challenge that people can do to hug it out, to find out different ways, like you build your affirmation list, you build your positive thought, gratitude for yourself, which is most important. That's the whole hug it out way. And that has a little havening session in there as well. And that's just hillaryrusso.com/5-day challenge.
I love a challenge. I love a challenge. So
kids love this too.
Yeah, so you could. That's something we could do as families.
Yes.
Is go to your website and download the 5-day challenge.
Absolutely.
You don't need any professional guidance for that. It's just something we can do.
One of the days actually has a short havening video on it. But I would say, for the more empowering session, is to get with me. Just give me a call and holler at me, and let's see if havening is right for you. Because, you know, the more tools, the more candy we have in the brain candy jar to pick out when we need it, whether it's that bubble bath or any other modality that you might use, because we need many.
And we need tools. Yeah,
Right.
there's like when you're fixing something at home,
Right.
you don't just have one screwdriver.
No,
you have different
that's a
ones.
great. I love using that analogy of like you need someone sometimes to hold the level for you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can do it yourself. So knowing that you have the tools there available to you, or the candy in the brain candy jar, pick it out when you need it, because that's how you find the sweetest ways to be kind to your mind.
And I love as we just raise awareness about this in Stress Awareness Month.
Yes.
It's very normal to feel stress. We all do. It's not really going anywhere. Our world is pretty stressed out right now. So we need these tools to do it. And this, what I liked about having you on the show, is I love to give people things that this doesn't cost money unless they go get private help with you, which they can. But this is something you could learn at a relatively low cost, and you can do it on demand. I mean, if you can't get to a therapist, or you can't get insurance to cover something, or you need something because people are struggling, this is something you can get better at as you go and really learn and empower yourself.
Right. I don't own this. I don't own you. You own you. And my way of sharing this modality is just to remind you that I've been there too. There are times I get stressed, even in the work I do in holistic health, in coaching, as a practitioner. I'm hearing stories every day, even as a journalist, even as a human being.
Yes.
We deal with stuff every day. So why not be more empowered and put the tools in your hands?
Right. And sometimes it's just remembering, because we get so stressed out, and then it's hard to think of healthy things to do.
Oh yeah, we get on that. We start rolling. And what?
That's the hijack of the amygdala. We want to give CPR to the amygdala.
We want to
Amy.
CPR the amygdala really fast before you start going down that hill, right?
Yeah, that's the hard part.
On it.
It's starting. That's the hard part, is kind of being aware and noticing it before you're too far gone.
Look, I say this all the time. The first step to any change is awareness, and once you are aware, you can make a positive change.
Yeah.
So stopping that before you start rolling, or once you see yourself rolling, you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Is what I'm telling myself true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? That's the think method, right? So stop and think before you take action. So think, is what I'm telling myself true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And if it's not,
start your havening. So we're gonna leave it there. We're gonna just we've got our havening technique. I'm sure if you want to learn more about this, you can Google and learn more about havening. But in the meantime, I will make sure to connect people on my social media. You can always follow me at Kara Sunderland. Listen to the CURES podcast on any platform you want. You could share this. It's also on the WFSB YouTube channel, and of course right here on the show.
And I love my fellow podcasters, because as a podcaster as well, I have Holistically Speaking, which is trauma to triumphs through health, healing, and humor. But you can find me as well on Hillary Russo on all social media or online. Thanks so much, Kara.
Have a great day and be well.